Hello, Acers, and welcome to This Week in Role-Playing. I'm your host, Mason Emerson, and this is the Ace Role-Playing Games Club channel. Okay, that's just what I'm calling this episode. I'm going to get back to the rest of the rules videos that I've been making and hope that those long format ones have been something that's been helpful, that you've been able to zero in on a specific rule or set of rules or section of the book that has helped you to make your Savage Worlds game better. That said, I want to talk about the last 3 days up to this that I spent at SaltCon. First of all, there is a bit of a commitment for me in going to SaltCon in the first place. Well, the first commitment thing is in order to get the free pass, which I have to do because, frankly, it's over $100 and I just really couldn't afford it. So I found a new way to afford it, and that was by donating my time as a game master, which I would have wanted to do anyway. That's all I want to do when I go to FanX. And incidentally, yes, I am submitting panel and workshop ideas to FanX because, sadly for me, just in the year that I decided, nope, I'm not going back next year, I'm not going to do it, I'm done, they're bringing Paul Williams in. And many people might know him as the voice of the Penguin in Batman the Animated Series, but I know him from his music. I'm a product of the 70s myself, and that's when he really was in his heyday. And he's been on Star Trek, he's been on lots of things, but he's someone that hardly anybody knows except my wife and I. We love him, and I'm going to be taking our Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas special figurines and having him sign the box because he's Paul Williams. I love Paul Williams. His music was great. He wrote almost all the music he wrote all the music for the Muppet movie, and he's written almost all the music for almost all the other Muppet things too. So if you've heard a good jingle on a Muppet movie, chances are it was written by Paul Williams. I think even I'm going to go back there someday. One of my favorite Gonzo ones. That was. But anyway, so I'm going to sign up to do that. I'm still going to try and get in and do game mastering the week before Thanksgiving at Dragonsteel, which I've heard is an excellent convention. I'm hoping to go to that one. But back to SaltCon. They actually have 3 that they hold at the Davis Convention Center in Layton, Utah. And there are certain things about that venue that are really good. And this year, one of those good things came out. Because last year, when I went and game mastered, they had a D&D league whatever thing going on there, and there is this guy. He's huge. I mean, I'm talking, he's probably 6'8", and he's maybe 350 pounds. I mean, the guy is massive, and he's got this big red beard, and he stands out there and he bellows. And he bellows at such a loud volume to be heard over the 20 tables that are playing League that nobody else in the room can hear their own game master at a at a sitting near table that isn't a League table. And I'm kind of grateful that Savage Worlds doesn't necessarily have a large boisterous thing like that. However, XDM does, and XDM does it right, and that is Killer Breakfast. Check out Killer Breakfast in both editions of XDM, but especially in the second edition. It's great. It gave him 10 more years to really refine it and stuff. And I've even played in one of Tracy Hickman's Killer Breakfasts. I played in one in 1999, right after Star Wars had come out, or either that or right before. But it was right the same year Star Wars Episode 1 came out. And I played a droid, and I was killed in 38 seconds. And it was great. It was so much fun. And then the audience gets into participation. But this is talking about cons still. And actually, that's something that Tracy does at cons. And that's what the game is meant for, is for cons. But it should be done in a private amphitheater room, not in the main gaming suite. And that's one of the things that I think Tracy nails it right. He's bringing people out of the audience up on the stage. Everybody gets a turn to come up on stage, grab a character, sit down, and try and do something to affect the story, and then have their character die and be escorted back off the stage. It is that much fun, and it's that crazy, and the whole thing lasts 2 hours, and it's fun. And that's what cons are meant to be. They're meant to give you a chance to try something new that you haven't done before. And that's why I bring Savage Worlds to conventions. That's why I brought it to SaltCon. They, like I said, have the Davis Convention Center. They were able to put up some air walls in the room to block off and make a little room inside the other larger room where all the D&D league players went, and so that guy could bellow, even use a microphone to bellow into the microphone, and it, with the exception of a gap about that big, just about maybe this big, at the bottom corner of the room, you couldn't hear anything out of that room. It was great. So, perks to the SaltCon organizers for asking for that this year. Okay, that said, Davis Convention Center has one big sucky thing. Their food rules are so awful. I will say that loud and clear. Davis Convention Center will not let you bring outside food or drink in. They force us to either buy from their grill or go off-site to go get food. And that is one place where FanX does it right and Davis does it wrong. And it's not SaltCon's fault. They try. And Davis Convention Center will not budge. I mean, I understand that they usually use it for, like, business conventions and things like that. But Davis Convention Center, come on, wake up. Food trucks. The answer is food trucks. Let food trucks line up out in the front parking lot. Let people go out there and get their stuff. And let the food trucks pay you guys a bit for being there. And everybody's going to be happier. I mean, you're even attached to a hotel and you can walk around and go buy stuff from the hotel. The hotel stuff is cheaper than the Davis Convention Center's grill. And I have special dietary needs. I can't eat what you offer. I can't drink anything except the water you offer. Okay, maybe I can eat the fruit. But I have to go off campus, as it were, to go get food that I can eat. Fortunately, it is walking distance from the fish and chip shop, which they make them with different kinds of flour that I can actually eat. And it's also a British import store, so it's really good. And there's also a Thai place right next door that I can eat that too. But that doesn't mean that I want to necessarily take an hour lunch or a 2-hour lunch to be able to go and come back and try and make my next game. And I ran 4 games. So the first game I ran was Thursday late morning, about 11 o'clock. I ran Dust Bunnies, Life Under the Couch. And I ran the stock basic introductory adventure that's in the book, The Horror Cleaning Day. And my players got into it. We even had a player character death. Now, a player death, that would have been really uncomfortable at the table. Especially if this guy died, because he was there with his 11-year-old daughter. But he did something daring, foolish, foolhardy, and critically failed. Rolled a 1 on his wild die and a 1 on his trait die. Critical failure, and the vacuum got him. And the other Dust Bunnies all were able to scream and get away, and they were able to do things to the vacuum, things like that at the end in the final battle. And we ended up running out of time and having to everybody roll one more die and narrate our way out of it because we were having so much fun. I did have some logistical problems that popped up. One logistical problem that I had pop up was that another complaint against Davis Convention Center, really crappy electrical outlet availability. If you can get to near a wall outlet, well then, yeah, you can plug in your laptop and keep it going. My laptop here, it's kind of an older one. It's 4 years old this year, and it's battery life because I keep it plugged in all the time because I'm always using it at a sitting workstation. I'm not taking it around all that much. But when I do take it places, battery life only lasts about an hour and a half. And so I've got to figure out another solution. But still, the Davis Convention Center, they charge the convention like per kilowatt hour as if they use the floor plugs. And they're worried about the tripping hazard of so many people going around near 30 tables in a room. So I can understand that, but maybe they could run some power strips under the tables. That's not that hard. There's a Larry H. Miller Convention Center down in Sandy that I think might be a great venue for this, and I'm going to try and help my friends there at SaltCon to maybe move at least the role-playing gaming down here, because wow, Davis Events Center, 1 star, babies. Fix these things. People would like it better. It's a pretty venue otherwise though. So maybe 1.5 stars. The half stars for being able to get things around. Oh, and the conference rooms suck. I'll get to that in a minute too. Anyway, I run that Dust Bunnies game, and I actually got to play one game, and it was a labyrinth game based on the movie Labyrinth by Jim Henson. Hey, look, call back to the Muppets right there. Jim Henson's Labyrinth, and I found out from the lady who owned the game, because her husband was running it, but the lady who owned the game, her name, funny enough, was Sarah, and she was playing Jareth. So enjoy that humor. Anyway, Sarah was very bummed because the game had come out several years ago, and and she bought this version like online during COVID, and it was about $100 because it was out of print, and it came with the dice and everything like that. It came with the whole set, but not long after COVID, they re-released it, and they also released one for Dark Crystal as well. So I'm probably going to try and pick up those two books, just if nothing else, for the Labyrinth Brian Froud art, and I love Brian Froud. He is amazing. That was his son Toby actually that was playing Toby in Labyrinth. That was their baby son. Anyway, I got to play in that Labyrinth game, and I played a fly, a 4 centimeter tall fly. You know, so that big, maybe that long, and I was talking like this the whole time. It was pretty funny, and I started doing chuckles. I was causing as much mayhem as I could, and trying to get as involved as I could. And the one thing I do give the adventure game is I love the randomness, the way that you go into different rooms, and it truly is a shifting labyrinth the way it was portrayed in the movie. That was really cool. So that's Thursday night. I get home. Okay, going back to Wednesday night, actually, I stayed up till 2 a.m. because I realized, oh crap, I should get some more handouts and things for people to be able to understand some of their stuff for Dust Bunnies. So I was slamming that all together, still trying to put together a presentation on Savage Worlds, and I'd been trying that for like 2 weeks, but just time and everything just kept pulling it away from me. So I'm copying covers of editions and supplements and things like that I could put into this nice PowerPoint. Well, I already had a PowerPoint for the next evening, which was for Ace Role-Playing Games, for you guys. And I talked about the genesis of Ace Role-Playing Games and what my goal is, what I want people to help me do. And that is to expand the club and to help you guys to realize that life is worth living. And with that said, I go there Friday morning. I'm there for my 9:30 a.m. My first game, we played Knights Arcanum, which is really a cool fantasy superhero. It's a kind of a nod of a really good friend of mine, Brandon. He at Starforge or Star Anvil, Star Anvil Studios. That's it right there. I'll put that up there. Star Anvil Studios, and I'll even remember to put a link in the bottom down here, because he's got a couple games. He's got one called Saints and Sinners. He's got one called one that's an official one for Secret World, and he's got Knights Arcanum that he's at least put the Kickstarter out for. And Knights Arcanum is a nod very much to He-Man, Thundercats, and G.I. Joe kind of all mashed up. Squish them together, and then make them fantasy superheroes. So, the fantasy superheroes, that was a blast. My friend Scott got to sit in on that one. It was a lot of fun. And then, that was from 9:30 to 1:30. Exactly at 1:30, fortunately, one of my players insisted. He said, sit down. This other dude's gone to the bathroom. Sit down, take a breather between games. And I did. But I started at another table at 1:30 using the adventure that's in the Savage Worlds Explorer number 6. Now you can see this and somehow got wet. I don't know when or where that happened, but it kind of damaged the cover because it's a really cool cover. I think I have a second. Oh, I gave it to my daughter, I think. But anyway, because this has a Deadlands Noir adventure in it, which is really cool. It has an adventure for I'm trying to get back there, for the 6th gun, which I don't own actually yet. I maybe should go get. I maybe should get that one. And it has an adventure for East Texas University called The Curious Death of Violet Evans. And that's written by my friend Tracy Sizemore. Shout out to her. She's amazing. She's an amazing role playing game writer. And I'm so glad that I've become her friend. And then, so those two were back to back. I had a half-hour break from 5:30 to 6, and then ended up that was cleanup time because it was right during the 4 o'clock hour that they started putting up the air walls in the big room, and that really kind of screwed me over for getting pushed over around the table. My new horror companion got thrown to the ground. It was it was a mess. It didn't nothing really got damaged, but still at the same time watching a brand new book tumble to the ground. I mean, I feel I can't have any nice things because I can have books with sharp corners and then I'll drop them and they all look like this. So I got to run Violet Evans right after Fantasy Superheroes. Now, what was cool, and this is a big strength of Savage Worlds, is Savage Worlds allows you to shift from larger than life gonzo fantasy superheroes. I mean, the guy playing Tempest defeated my final army of minions. He did wipe the whole board of them because he used a storm power. He moved around. He used his storm power to basically do a gust, and my minions failed their strength check and all got blown overboard. 10 of them just boom. And that only left 2 minions and the Spider Queen. And we had to wrap it up quick because I had to get to the thing, so we again quick encountered our way out of that. And finally, I got to go there and present on an ace, and that's when I found out that Davis Convention Center, they don't have an HDMI plug in the room with the projector that I was put in. They didn't even have the projector active. That was my bad, though, for not talking to the con organizers saying, hey, these are the things I need. Maybe that's something you guys could do at SaltCon, of make sure to ask when people sign up to do presentations, do you need any projectors or whiteboards or things like that? And that's something I would really love to see at FanX too. They often don't bring in their whiteboards. I might have to actually buy me inexpensive whiteboard on wheels or something to take in to FanX this year when I do my workshop for a one sheet build. That's going to be a goal that I'm going to have is a workshop to build a one sheet and maybe help multiple tables build their own one sheet, or even have people work on their own. But they'll have to bring their computers and stuff like that or whatever. But the goal is to build one sheets. I am going to, however, take, if I can find them, I might have to buy another set. But I do have a set of special things you can stick on the corners of whiteboards, and I can take a picture with my Rocketbook and I can turn it into a PDF. So that will be really cool. But I'd like to maybe see if they can bring in like several whiteboards, like maybe a dozen of them, or maybe see how much it would cost to just rent them from the Salt Palace Center and see if I could just rent them and have them brought in. Whatever. That's future me problem. So I am going to do that workshop though, and I got to submit another couple of them. I'm trying to see if see if my friend Mike wants to join me on the Savage Worlds 20 year presentation like I did on Saturday morning. Yesterday at noon, I did a presentation on Savage Worlds, and that had about 10-15 people in it. It was small for that convention, but that's kind of a different venue. And then I ran straight from there to run Deadlands Lost Colony. And I ran just an adventure that's in the new Maw of Oblivion, expansion book, or what would I call that? It's a supplement book to the Deadlands Lost Colony setting book. So there's Deadlands Lost Colony setting, and then Maw of Oblivion is one of the. It's got an adventure in it. It's got really good rules for starship combat, and it had a really cool adventure where they were on a mining asteroid, where you had people trying to kind of start a little dust up, and my heroes had to stop it. Now, what's cool about East Texas University and Deadlands Lost Colony and even Dust Bunnies was I was all three of those I was able to give a well, Dust Bunnies, they're on cards, yes, but I just handed them the paper version, printout of the book. But you can put a whole character sheet on the front and back of like a 3x5 card. And especially East Texas University on Friday and Deadlands Lost Colony yesterday, the two of those, I just handed out the archetype cards. And everybody passed them around and took an archetype. Now, Deadlands Lost Colony, their archetypes are novice characters, whereas East Texas University, their archetypes are seasoned characters or sophomores, as you say it in proper ETU terms. I also made some new friends. One that came to my Savage Worlds presentation yesterday, and he then joined us at the table for Lost Colony. And then another friend that came and played in my East Texas University game, and he kind of had some questions and thoughts about Savage Worlds. And when I started explaining things, he said one of the things that is one of the advice things that I got when I first did it, and I give it to you: run the game as written before you try and tweak it. And you might find some tweaks that you like better. Like my friend and I that talked last night, he had an idea of what if you were, instead of like, I don't know if he's saying instead of a wild die, but what if you took your attribute die and your skill die and you rolled those together to try and get a 4 or better. And that's kind of a cool tweak. I like that idea. But what I really like is the fact that when I told him about how the wild die worked, how acing worked, how being able to even succeed in the face of an unskilled check works, he looked at me. That's when he said, I should probably run the rules as written and give it a try. So we had some really great discussions, and I made a lot of really new great friends. There were several friends that came in and just were like, hey, let's swap numbers, let's keep in touch with each other, that kind of thing. And it was great. So my wrap up and my final statements are, and I do have to add this. We ended Deadlands Lost Colony in such a way, early enough, but at the same time, nobody was coming to our table. But we ended it early enough that we were able to do Stars and Wishes. And I just did a short on that, but again, Stars and Wishes, if you're seeing it over here for the first time, you didn't watch the short, I put in this, I stole this mechanic from somebody else who got it from another article, but the idea is this. Go around the table, especially at a con game afterwards, and this is good direct feedback that people are willing to give, because it's not actually attacking you. It's not saying, well, I think you could have handled that surprise monster a little bit better. Instead of doing it that way, do Stars and Wishes. You go around the table and going like this. You say, Stars, what stood out for you in the game, in the system, among the players, the way I ran things? What stood out to you as something you really enjoyed? What was your favorite? Just, dang, that was awesome. And wishes are, man, I really wish this thing could have happened this way, or I really wish this mechanic did this. And those Stars and Wishes are invaluable as a game master, because you can get the feedback that you need to be able to make your game mastering better and to help your players enjoy themselves more and do a continuous, relentless improvement. Well, that's all I have for this report. I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you joining me. I think that this is one of the coolest things I've ever been able to do in my life. I am so grateful you're here. I love you. If nobody's told you that today, I have, and I mean it. I really do love you. You're amazing. This world is a better place because you're in it, and I really do hope to see you at my table.